Okay.
Warming up.
Twindy. I haven't prepped. Na pala the intro video for later.
That's okay. My timer was still used for cooking, but just warming up.
Yep, and we'll spend a little time promoting.
Mm-mm. Oh boy, it's a humid day. Well, night.
Mm-hmm. So we chose not to have air conditioning.
Which wasn't so bad earlier today.
Yeah, the weather was nice kasi.
But now, this evening, it has suddenly become intense.
And I guess because and then it rained, but then I think the rain's going away, and now it's just leaving the humidity
Our
behind.
clothes are brighter than our faces.
That's the challenge of white. Grab the YouTube link.
We are resharing as well, and then we shall officially start in a bit. Hoo, 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 hoo.
Hey, this week's busy.
Quite. It has that, you know, it still feels like it's still Monday. Still hurt.
Hmm.
Oh, that is a pimple that I should not have popped. Or it was not a pimple, but I treated it as a pimple.
I will take this moment to clean.
It does feel darker than normal. I think the light's further away than usual.
Well, it's also this is the first time on the show since the new lights and camera that we're wearing white. So that is also a unique
See,
situation.
look here. I'm like bluish. Hmm. This is me, bluish. Then I go here. I have skin color. And then I go back here. And I'm
Because
bluish.
the yellow light is super close at the moment. I know because the chair is pressing against my leg because
Yeah.
it's caught between us.
But it's still not enough to reach me.
Yeah, it's a no. Because I don't know if we should get traditional lights because these are all LED ring lights, and then the
Oh
bada.
gosh, no. We're like gonna melt.
I know, right? But then the wavelength of these things is really shorter,
Hey
right?
Mitch, I know that's you sending a lot of hearts.
I
Hey
know,
Noel.
Al.
Alright, I think we can start. Let's start because we're gonna have a Tuesday night and it's warm.
Yeah. Okay, one moment.
Oh yeah! Really great!
This is Toby.
And this is
And
Rocky.
if it's your first time here, welcome to Baduy Pride, a little space on the internet where we talk about anything we want.
It's completely unscripted and not entirely accurate, but at least it's honest. Join us as we talk about everything and anything random
And
live.
if it's not your first time here, thank you so much for joining us again. This is episode 241. It's a Tuesday, and we're doing a lot of episodes this week that were inspired by Dune.
Yeah, so this is a bit of a tenuous link, but then we'll work with it because one of the central features of the Dune mythos is spice. Well, it's a particular fictional spice, but now
Mm.
we're just gonna talk about spices today because we talk about food on
And
Tuesdays.
we will try to avoid, you know, going for Noel's joke where it becomes the Spice Girls.
Well, both Noel and Mitch have made multiple reference to this every time we mention today's topic, so I guess we'll just have to deal with it eventually.
All right,
Go start, Toby.
let's talk about spices. Um,
Go start, Toby.
what?
Let's talk about spices.
Zigga zigga?
Oh, see, you're the one who went there. Well, and Mitch has her own version, which is Ziggy Ziggy. You've just involved a classic cartoon character into your
well,
maneuver.
okay, let's start with the episode because tonight is the night
What? Why are you laughing?
when two become one. So, spices. Spice is a seed, fruit, root, bark, or any other plant substance, primarily used for flavoring or coloring food. Now that weirded me out. I did not realize that if something colors food, it's considered a spice. I always thought that was like something else, like decorative or something.
So good job, things like turmeric, I guess.
yeah. But I didn't think of coloring as the main point. I thought it was like ang side effect lang na wala, no choice, it's turmeric, so it's gonna turn that color. Or it's pepper, so it's gonna turn reddish. So I never thought of spices as specifically also including coloring food.
Okay, and then read on.
Spices are distinguished from herbs, which are leaves, flowers,
Say herb again.
herb.
What
Herbs.
happened? Did you make the herb silent?
The H is silent.
With apparently the T. Okay.
Uh, which are flowers, leaves, or stems of plants used for flavoring or as a garnish. Spices are sometimes used in medicine, religious rituals, cosmetics, or perfume production.
So that I think that already answers like what's always my first question is how do you distinguish spice and herbs?
Mhm.
And I think people will find that you probably use more herbs than spices more
Mhm.
often than not. I think depending on things. So yeah. I think obviously our low hanging fruit is probably pepper,
Okay.
especially black pepper.
Unless you choose salt.
Okay.
Because salt is a spice, right?
I don't know.
No, because it's not from plants. Oh no.
That's why
the world
it's
is
like-
blown. I always thought it was part of the spices. But then again, they say sugar and spice and anything nice, and then pepper and salt, and it's not a spice.
So some people say that salt is both a seasoning and condiment, but it's not a spice or herb because
It's a
it is not
seasoning.
obtained from plant.
It's a seasoning. Okay, that makes sense.
It's its own person.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so pepper is the most common
Spice.
spice. Unless you're Filipino, then
Sige.
it's going to be, if not pepper,
What you think is-
sile. Right? That's just a pepper. Because I'm thinking peppercorns and I'm thinking
Pepper or pepper or pepper.
but you know what I really hate?
What?
Cloves. I have a huge hatred for cloves.
In food or cigarettes?
Because both. but in food first. Because when I first noticed them before, my childhood brain went, "Uy, santan flowers in my food."
Okay, that sounds unfortunate
And-
already.
And I don't know if you ever had that experience in childhood where you get the santan flower and then you pluck out the piece and then you taste the nectar.
I just plucked the thing out. I never ate it.
Eat the nectar, don't waste it. The butterflies will hate you. Anyway, so when I saw that, and then when I had food that had cloves, I'm like, oh, it's santan. So Plucked it out, and then never again.
You're like that weird classic story in my family that there was a relative who first time at a Japanese restaurant and then he
The
sees someone,
wasabi.
he goes, "Ooh, guacamole!" So Noel shares he doesn't like star anise.
Star anise is like giant cloves, right? I mean, is it?
Yeah, you're in this. Wow, I didn't realize that we have such dire hatred of cloves that it's like you're defining everything around cloves.
Mm-mm.
But that star anise is so much more common here though, because it's used in a lot of stuff.
Yes, and it looks awesome because it looks like the ships in Battlestar Galactica.
Okay, I guess it could be a base star. That's one way of looking at it. It's like too much something is bad enough to make. I'm not gonna continue anymore. Okay, I'm just gonna. I don't know where the. I feel like everybody's just gonna keep trying song quote things. Okay. Okay. Sorry, we're like super distracted by your very active comments. All
Okay,
right.
so among other spices that we've encountered, so black pepper is one of the most common, of course. In the Philippines, though, we can go beyond black pepper, and we have fresh peppers that are chopped into bits, or um,
I like the fact.
not even chili flakes. Like there's that reddish peppery powder that we use.
I like they cite cayenne
Yes.
pepper, and I like they cite cinnamon. Which when you think about it, oh nga no, cinnamon is like very heavily used. It is technically a spice, but then we see it more on the sweeter side of the world. It's added to coffee.
Apple
It's
pie.
in pastries.
Mhm.
I mean like things like cinnamon rolls make a living
Mhm.
out of having lots of cinnamon. And yeah, and it's a nice like warm flavor. It blew my mind when like I mean, like as much as I wanted to dismiss when Starbucks first
Mhm.
arrived, like who cares about this thing? But then you get to the that prep station on the side
Mm-mm.
with the extra milk, and then suddenly I can put as much cinnamon as I want into
Mhm.
my coffee,
Mhm.
which naturally resulted in a lot of over cinnamon
Yes,
coffees. I'm
I've
sure.
shared my nightmare of putting way too much, and that was horrible. So I do not like cinnamon either. I like it in very small
It's
doses.
in our pantry.
Otherwise, I like it at Obar. Cinnamon. Anyway, moving
I
forward,
guess Toby's had a really stressful day. Okay.
let's talk about cumin.
Cumin is not a spice I was immediately familiar
As long as you
with.
pronounce it the right way.
Um, and it actually came up because someone asked if I added the eggs, and like,
Mm-hmm.
what? Add cumin to eggs? And then I officially picked up cumin because I tried to make curry,
Mm-hmm.
to make a curry, and then there is curry powder, which is not just one thing.
Mm-hmm.
So then you kind of dig into it, then you'll see that there's things like cumin. So I like cumin though more than turmeric or curry powder because
Mm-hmm.
I feel it goes with so many things.
I feel it's something I'd recognize when I taste it, but like
Mm-mm.
right now, I can't remember what it is.
You wait for me to do sunny
Yeah,
side up
yeah, but
eggs
that's the thing.
because I love adding a
The
dash of
moment,
cumin to
the
sunny
moment
side up
I remember,
eggs.
I've used it as well in some of the eggs I've made, and the moment you place it, there's that yeah, it's that thing it adds. But then when I try to think of it on its own, not strong enough a memory for me to think of something.
Which is funny, no? So and it's another thing from a flowering
So
plant.
it's the dried seed of the herb, uh,
Cumin siminum.
a member of the
Siminum.
parsley family.
It is sometimes confused with caraway, another spice in the parsley family. Cumin, though, is hotter to the taste, lighter in color, and larger. So yeah, it adds a very subtle heat. But I
Mhm.
don't use cumin to like and to make things hotter. And that's a funny thing, no? We often associate the term spicy with hot,
Mm.
but that's not necessarily the case because not all
Yeah,
spices are
I
the
think we're
same.
we're trained young to think spice means hot
Yes.
or spice means heat. But it's only later we realize that heat is heat and spice is totally different.
Yeah, because a lot of pepper is spicy, but not necessarily. I mean, black pepper is a lot is
Yes.
spicy, but not necessarily hot.
Yes. Mitch asks, do you have a spice alphabet?
Probably not. I don't think I'm that thorough or that creative about the spices we use. I stick to a lot of familiar things and I fall back on them regularly. Um, when I used to make a lot more curry, then I'd always keep curry powder, cumin, and turmeric. But then now I like mainly use cumin, and then I'm still trying to finish like the last of the turmeric,
Mm.
which I just throw in at random, but admittedly mainly for color.
Mm.
Like I'll make a what I'd end up calling curried tuna, which is just tuna with cumin and turmeric mixed in, and it gets yellow, and it turns the pan yellow. But that's little things.
Then we have nutmeg
Another one that's best associated with like pastries,
or
desserts, and
Christmas.
yeah, it's like on the streets. But no,
That's the
I
only time you hear it when like it's seasonal drinks. It's Christmas drinks. Okay, there's nutmeg in it.
I haven't really encountered a lot of
Mhm.
nutmeg.
Ginger then comes in, and I have to admit, it's a love-hate relationship for me.
Yeah,
There's that parang if it's ginger on its own, I don't like it. If it's ginger a certain way, I like it.
I
If
mean, like we
it's
like our ginger tea. It's so
mhm,
comforting. And then I didn't think we would get into what is ginger bun,
mhm,
the ginger candy,
yeah,
which
and
is
then
like such relief.
pickled ginger.
Oh yeah,
That
yeah.
that
That,
really blew my mind. I remember hating it so much before when I have Japanese food, and then when we learned what it was for, voila, it changed forever. We could not enjoy Japanese food without making sure there was a bit of pickled ginger.
Mitch's like paprika.
Paprika.
Yeah, and that's like a family spice, often abused. I mean, like I know we probably like there are times we use it heavily, but then
I always
it's
add it to
it's
my meat.
fun. Yeah, yeah, it's a fun little
Mhm.
additive. So Black Swana asked, "Do you have a quote unquote holy trinity that you put in everything, like something that is your base?"
So, since we're not counting salt, because it turned out it's not a spice, I'm still overwhelmed. It's a seasoning. It's a seasoning. Okay. So, mine would be um, black pepper, only because we have to define which pepper. Paprika, and no, I guess basil. I
Mm.
add a dash of basil. The moment I put cheese, I want to put basil.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, but basil's an herb.
Doesn't count anymore. Doesn't aren't herb spices?
No,
Oh no.
they're differentiated based on where you get
Ah.
it from.
Okay, then if I'm not counting that, I was about to say rosemary, but I'm not counting that either. I think that's it. Cayenne. I do add cayenne.
Occasion, and that's for heat.
Yeah, and normally, if let's say on one side of the meat I put the paprika,
The
on the
other
other
side
side
is
I
like
put the cayenne.
cayenne.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, it's in a.
Yes, black swan. Salt isn't a spice. It's officially a seasoning because spices are from plants.
And then friend here is like, so no, these are not matching Uniqlo shirts. They are matching Old Navy shirts.
Yes, they are our condiment shirts.
What about garlic powder? I guess that would count.
I guess, yeah,
Okay,
because
yeah.
it would then be.
Derived, and it feels closer to cloves.
Mhm.
um, and then for me, I guess it actually it depends on the type of thing I'm cooking. So like I definitely have pepper in everything. That's like
Mhm.
I'm very aggressive with pepper. If I'm making a pasta, then you'll most likely see basil, oregano, and or Italian seasoning, which is a mix that already includes basil and oregano. But then if I am making some certain soups and stuff, and I want to spice it up, then it's going to be black pepper, some cayenne pepper,
Mm-mm.
maybe some paprika, and then cumin. Cumin is like my friend that I ever since I met cumin, it's everywhere. When I make eggs, I love cumin with my eggs. Okay.
Taran Wanderer mentions the one that makes the kilikili mabaho. I guess that would be
Some of the curry stuff. I mean, like there's always that
cumin.
association, yeah, when you have uh these things.
Mhm.
Okay. Mitch then says for a paprika for a rub, she has paprika, cumin, pepper, a little of sugar and salt. Ah, okay. Okay. Yeah, I was fascinated by like I followed the instruction for making a sort of spice rub thing and then uh it's like a trace amount of oil and then mix these things in a small container and then rub it like either onto the skin or under the skin of the chicken
Mhm.
between the meat, and that's fun stuff.
So, talking about the classification and types of spices, Wikipedia mentions So you have the culinary herbs and spices. The list, of course,
It's very
includes
long.
um, yeah, it has everything from carom seeds to alligator pepper to anise to avocado leaf,
The
basil,
basils.
capers, celery seeds, and so on and so forth. But then we have the botanical basis as it's listed, which is seeds, fruits, arils, barks, flower buds, stigmas, roots, and resins. These sound very strange. I'm weirded out by some of these. I've never heard of some of these. Then we have the common mixture spices, as they call it, which basically are the pre-mixed combinations: Cajun, curry powder, five spice powder. You have masala, which is a generic name now used for any mix used in the Indian subcontinent.
Oh my gosh, really? That's sad.
Pumpkin pie spice.
Oh,
Um,
pumpkin spice.
yeah, mixed spice and the like. So it's interesting.
Okay. Um.
Hey, Aina.
Okay, and then Noel just tries to add baking instructions. Of course, Mitch's like, "Oh, coriander is an herb." Yeah, there's that random like, "Oh, this is an herb," and whatnot. I mean, like, it's just how it is. We just deal with it.
Now, spices are handled in different ways. You have fresh, you have whole dried, and you have pre ground dried. Generally, spices are dried, and they're ground into a powder for convenience. A whole dried spice has the longest shelf life, so it can be purchased and stored in larger amounts. A fresh spice, such as ginger, is usually more flavorful than its dried form.
That's true.
But fresh spices are more expensive and have a shorter shelf life. Some spices are not always fresh or whole, for example, turmeric, and often must be purchased in ground form. For ground spices, the classic tool is the mortar and pestle.
Pestle.
Now, as a kid, I loved using it for everything else except grinding spices.
What? Why would they let you play with a mortar and pestle?
Because while my mom would be busy baking and stuff, it would be one of the things I can grab, and I'd be like, experimenting everything I could crush. I'd crush the garlic, and then I'd put an egg, and I'd crush the egg, and then yeah, I was a messy kid.
Did you have like the nice, like heavy mortar? Like it's like practically marble or
Yes,
mortar and
yes, with
pestle.
that parang cauldron shape, and then because it was like it's that
Yeah,
it
yeah. It's
had
super
it
heavy.
had small base, and then it had that large bowl thing. Because
Yes.
others were like just this weird half coconut, right?
Okay, I don't know about that. Yeah, we
But
had
the
the heavy
others
one.
had that base, so I like that one.
And then, did the handle break?
No, in
At,
fact, I wonder where it is now. I wonder if it's still
I
home.
feel like sooner or later, like especially with those heavy mortar and pestles, I always encounter it breaks in half sooner or
Mm,
later at some point in different homes, and then it's still usable. It's just that your handle now is shorter than it. Then it's
mm.
like millionaire. Okay, so Tristan asked if saffron is an herb or a spice. I think it was on the spice list
So
because
let's
it's not from the leaves.
so let's look officially. Saffron. Saffron is in the culinary herbs and spices.
But is it an herb or a spice?
Officially,
It's a spice
it's a
because it's
spice.
from the flower. So if it's from the leaves, then it's an herb. Okay.
Mhm.
Um,
And it has long been the world's costliest spice by weight.
it's because it's stupid.
I've never noticed the point of saffron.
I notice when there's too much, but then like at the price it commands, it does surprise me
Mm.
that it's so expensive.
I've never. It's like truffle for me. I haven't gotten to the point that when I taste something, saffron or truffle.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not
I get
something I
that.
get distinctly.
And it always comes up with like you need it in paella or um
Uh,
but yeah, it's always it I think it's the funny thing of I most remember it when there's too much of it.
mm.
And it's like, oh,
So
super
Aina
heavy
shares, it's
handed.
a spice. It's the stamen of the flower. Use
Yes.
stamen. So, um,
We're gonna end this show early. You're
no,
you're you're a
no,
nightmare, you're a
you
terror to
can't.
the world.
You can't.
You're gonna say something in response. That
Why?
is going to be a pun.
If you want to be my lover,
That's not even like wow, it's so left field.
You gotta get with my friends. Sorry, size girl. Anyway, um, moving forward, nutrition. Let's talk about spices and nutrition.
Okay.
So many say that because of the strong flavors and use of small quantities, spices actually add very few calories to food, even if there's a lot of them present. Of course, there are those who talk about it having substantial amounts of minerals and micronutrients, from iron, magnesium to calcium, and many others. A teaspoon of paprika contains 1,133 IU, so something units
Yeah.
of vitamin A, which is 20% of the recommended daily allowance specified by the FDA.
But man, would you take a teaspoon of paprika?
Yeah.
Ah!
I mean that's pretty much the nightmare that happened for people like me who went to Starbucks for the first time, right? And
Mm.
cinnamon, yes. And then you drink and you're like, "Bleh. What the hell did I add here?"
So most herbs and spices have substantial antioxidant activity owing primarily to their phenolic compounds, especially flavonoids, which influence nutrition through many pathways, including affecting the absorption of other nutrients. One study found cumin and fresh ginger to be the highest in antioxidant activity,
So I guess
which is why we have cumin
yeah,
everywhere.
and I guess that's why we kind of like ginger, for example, is such a fun thing to use in this country. Yeah,
Mm.
we have ginger tea, we have ginger candies, we have dishes that rely on ginger as the main component to make the dish different from others.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, so why is it we don't really have, or is there, and we're just not aware?
What?
Sabagay, there are clove cigarettes, so maybe there's ginger cigarettes
Why do
somewhere.
we have to ask about cigarettes right after we talk about health
Is there
benefits of
paprika
spices?
tea
I don't know.
or turmeric rolls?
Where are you getting
Because
this?
there's cinnamon rolls, so why not turmeric? Pickled pepper.
Yellow is not an appealing color. Okay. Um, if you eat a ton of deviled eggs, a lot of paprika, ginger is both a warming and cooling spice. Yeah,
Mhm.
I like ginger's versatility, um, and then now I really like mashing it up.
Mhm.
Like I don't just before I would just chop it, and then I chop it very finely so that in tinola it's like more diffuse.
Mhm.
But then now I like running it through a masher, and then like ooh, it's kind of that more Singapore context ginger, and yay, okay. And Aina shares, yeah, turmeric is luyang dilaw in
Yeah,
Filipino.
she also shares saffron is more noticeable. Oops, we lost it.
Yeah, in seafood and some sweets as it's used as a colorant.
Mhm.
Okay,
Then there's also blue ginger. Ooh,
ginger
interesting.
that went to porn,
What?
like a blue film. See,
It
this is what happens. So now you don't like it when it happens, but then you are
could
my
have
way.
been at the neon ginger. That would have made more sense.
Wow, that would make more sense. Let me show you this
See,
photo
see, even I know what
a
porn.
classmate shared of
People
me.
don't think blue and porn as a quick association.
Hey, we're old. We get to bring up old references. Okay. Um. So what's this? There, there was a part where like I had family members who were concerned about their heart health, and one of
Mm-hmm.
the the biggest recommendation that always comes up is reducing your sodium intake.
Mm-hmm.
And then you wonder how are you gonna flavor your food without salt because salt is like king.
Mm-hmm.
But um, then you think you encounter things like there's a whole brand called Mrs. Dash, and I thought like, oh wow, it's amazing. It's a seasoning that doesn't involve salt,
Mm-hmm.
but then it's just a lot of herbs and spices.
Mm-hmm.
So then, which has now become like more of my habit, especially in this keto period, is like I like looking at spice mixes
Mm-hmm.
and seeing what the individual spices are,
Okay.
and then getting those instead. So like as
Mm.
much as I love Italian seasoning, but then
Mm-mm.
I'll still maintain some basil and oregano on the side to
Mm-mm.
like push those flavors further. And I know they're herbs. Same thing with like a lot of curry mixes. Then that's why we started having cumin and turmeric
Mm.
and like because I ended up breaking it down and like experimenting that way.
So INM shares garlic makes food saltier. I did not realize that.
Hmm.
I did not realize there was a salty effect in terms of flavor from garlic. I always thought it was just creamier.
It's creamy when we bake it.
Yeah. And then Mrs. Dash is delicious on eggs and
It
salsa.
depends on the Mrs. Dash flavor, but maybe you're referring to the Mrs. Dash original. There's one with a hint of lime. That was nice too. That
Mm.
great with chicken. My only problem with Mrs. Dash and herbs in general in this country is that the humidity is madness. So Mrs. Dash containers are super not airtight and they solidify very quickly.
Mhm.
So it's a race to use them quickly before they turn into unusable chunks. Um, so Aina shares the thing that makes barbecue sauce barbecue is cumin and liquid smoke.
Oh,
Oh,
interesting.
see, cumin is our friend. Ooh, what is this list of things?
So
Medicinal uses.
there are the products and uses section in the Wikipedia page.
Okay,
So you have, of course, perfume. Many used spices to be part of what would eventually be perfumes: sesame oil, honey,
frankincense.
jasmine, cardamom. But then there's the medicinal use as well. So, in terms of the medicinal use, it breaks down to different areas. So, there's the hot, pungent version, which is cinnamon, for example, is an antiseptic and an anti-diarrhea. Cloves are a topical anesthetic,
An
and
antidyspeptic
mhm, cumin. Oh wow, cumin is antimicrobial, vermifuge.
and a diuretic.
Mm.
Okay. Curry leaves are an antiemetic. Garlic is antimicrobial, anti-hyperchlorostomic, anti-cancer, anti-hypertensive. Yeah, like garlic's right up there with like malunggay when
Mhm.
everybody's like, it does so many
And
things.
then paprika is a colorant and a source of ascorbic acid.
Oh, okay, that's
I did
nice.
not realize that.
Aina shares ambergris in perfume. Ew, but needed. Ambergris, also a call center once upon a time.
And
Okay.
then nutmeg is an astringent and a hallucinogen.
Ooh, delightful. Turmeric is anti-arthritic, antioxidant, anti-cancer. So yeah, it's a lot of these stronger spices that are fun.
Then the warm, fragrant ones include cilantro,
Ooh,
anti-inflammatory and antibacterial. Uh,
but I guess that's if you crush the stems because then you also use the leaves.
yeah, I
Then that makes
guess.
it an herb.
Then you have aniseed, which is antispasmodic, expectorant, and sedative.
Okay,
Licorice, which is an antitussive.
antitussive, antispasmodic, and for peptic ulcers. Oh
Mhm.
wow, so cough and stuff. Okay. Sesame seeds are a diuretic, a galactagogue, I don't know what that means, and a demulcent. Oh, for like gumminess. Oh, interesting. And star anise is an antiseptic, anti-rheumatic. Good job, star anise. Okay. Then there are the savory things. So they say basil is good for colds. It's an anti-diarrhea and for kidney disease.
Mhm.
Bay, I guess like bay leaves or the no
Yeah.
bay leaves is the herb. Then bay is your lover. Okay. Then embrocation, anti-rheumatic. Capers, when used as a spice, is a diuretic, an expectorant, and an astringent.
So capers, celery, and cilantro.
Are
Um,
all diuretics.
yeah, so they sort of act like coffee.
Yeah, they all make you pee. They all make you
Mm,
pee, funny pee. Is that
interesting.
why they affect
Same with oregano.
smell?
Ooh.
I like growing oregano before. It was like a school. Remember, like, was this? So dengue was such a big fear,
Mm.
and then you all going to school, and then I don't know who thought of this idea that all right, everyone, let's plant oregano outside the classroom windows.
Okay.
This was literally our grade school project.
Because they
They help
discourage
repel
yeah.
insects. Yeah, so then we all planted oregano outside the windows, and like Okay, this is a project. This is a fun project. Um, so Aina has a few things to share, of course. Just a very small amount of nutmeg enhances your cinnamon, but you have to use it in smaller amounts.
Mhm.
Basil in dalandan or honey citron tea is super delicious.
Mhm.
Capers are and different from caper berries. The capers, are the blossoms. I figure it's a different part. Yeah, it's a different part. Mint is an expectorant, good for colds, a local anesthetic, and antispasm.
Mhm.
And of course, poppy seeds are sedatives. Thanks,
And
poppy.
then you have ritual
Oh
use.
my god. The ritual use of spices was common in
So
the classical era. In many instances, spices were used in oils by soaking them or creating fragrances and then burning them. However, many of the spices that become commonplace in the late classical period were spices that were originally from countries outside of Roman territory and acquired through trade. So, what the hell? Zeus, the spice incense was malabathron, and Ares was costos.
mhm.
Helios was frankincense. And Celine was myrrh.
Mhm.
So okay, that's interesting. And then and of course with all our RPG playing, I always wonder about spiced wines.
Mhm.
It's like the autumn. If you're playing Houses of the Blooded,
It's probably ginger.
did you produce spice? Did you produce wine? I put them together. Spice wine, 2 season gift because it involved two different products. Oh my god. Boop boop boop. Aina also says lavender is good for pain and anxiety, but incidentally good in creme brulee.
Mhm.
Sometimes I wonder about my whole keto shift, and then like, am I just missing out on so many things? And there are times like I'm fascinated by more creative, dare I say, exotic desserts.
Mhm.
Exotic is such a rude term, though. We need to get away from it. Um, but yeah, and then so when you think about explorations in food, especially with whatever fusion cuisines are coming up, then maybe I need to like take a break.
Yeah, and there is that case of um, you know how vanilla has become such a term for plain
Which is funny because it's
because
such a
vanilla is
strong
and
flavor.
vanilla's it's so it's subtle in how much depth it has.
Mm.
Bad vanilla is really bad. Good vanilla is really, really, really good. And then the vanilla bean itself is so expensive and it's so tricky to use. So to see vanilla as such a plain thing is
It's a funny statement. It's
it's
a
a
very funny statement.
doesn't make sense.
So Mitch asking everyone how we store our spices. So we do have them in a cabinet. We're not very creative in the sense that we normally just buy McCormick
Mm.
spices in the jars and then keep them in those jars.
We're
And
we're not fancy enough to get like super fresh, real spices and like
they're all real. They're
yeah,
just
but you know what I mean.
fresher, I
Like
guess.
you have those that like I tried those bags, right? And those were nicely fresh. But we don't like stock them always like that.
Because it's a lot. I mean, like it's a lot to get, and then we don't have as much fun sources for like uh, spices that you can measure out. I mean, like I think real food probably has. I can't remember the few times I've gone. And then it's always a challenge of you need good containers for them
Mm.
that are nicely airtight so that they don't get damaged. But then like there are places in Singapore like little mini groceries that are all about like bring your own containers, bring your
Mm.
own stuff, very very eco friendly. Then you can measure out your spices and whatnot. So that's fascinating.
Aina also shares, other than keeping them in a cool, dark, dry, airtight space. Tip for baking with real vanilla essence: use more than one kind. It's my
Mm.
secret to my delicious cookies.
Of course, there's more than one kind. Oh no, vanilla.
Yeah, because vanilla has had the bad rap of people going, it's just milk. And
Vanilla because of the ice cream.
yeah,
It's
and
influenced by
that's
the
it.
ice cream.
They'll think that's all vanilla is. And I remember the first time I found out it was in a bean. I was like, what? And then I'm watching how you cut it open and I'm like, so strange. But then,
Then I think it's like when you finally try a nice gelato that you appreciate. Like vanilla is way more flavorful than
mm,
people give credit for, and
mm,
what you get in commercial ice cream is not the same.
is
It
really mostly milk.
Yeah, yeah, it is milk in that sense, but it's not true vanilla flavor.
So is vanilla Is vanilla the
I don't
Thousand
know.
Island dressing of spices?
Why? Why Thousand Island?
Because everyone thinks Thousand Island is like,
Ketchup and mayo.
yeah. So vanilla is like, oh, it's just melt. But the right one would be better.
Ina also says if you can't have the whole beans, vanilla paste is a very good alternative, especially for custards like ice cream and the like. Vanilla paste. Hmm.
Is
Okay.
there vanilla toothpaste? So like while you're brushing, it's
This
pastry.
this from the person who doesn't like mint chocolate. Do you
Because
want to
mint is
do you want to
weird.
associate more food flavors with toothpaste?
Mint is weird. I mean, mint goes better with alcohol than it does with toothpaste.
Name an alcohol that has mint.
Mojito?
Okay, name another
More mojitos?
one. It's just weird to give this blanket statement that mint's better in alcohol and then
Why? Do you like mint chocolates?
no, not really.
Mm. So why are you fighting this battle?
No, I'm fighting the battle of why do you want to put more flavors into toothpaste?
No,
And
I'm
then
just
you're gonna complain later. Oh, I don't like vanilla thing because they taste like my toothpaste.
it's just interesting to consider how creative people have gotten with flavors. I remember when I first found dishes that was like this dish is drawing from rose, for example, or this pastry has gantong herbs, and there was that parang what? Why are we mixing this world up? But then when you try it, it's not so bad. But I still don't like you. Mint chocolates, nope. Still don't like you.
Is there a spice that you've been curious to use but you haven't tried yet? Like you see, I don't know if you encounter it a lot in a recipe or something, and you want to try using that spice.
I guess it would fall under yung saffron and maybe even truffle and the like. In the sense that parang I want to use it so I get it because I don't get it. I don't get the fascination. I don't get the price. I don't get people going, "Uy, may saffron," and I'm like, "Huh?" Then I try it. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, it's yummy," but I don't know what they're tasting. I want to identify it.
On the toothpaste front, Aina shares more often cinnamon, basil, mint, peppermint, and lemon balm are used in toothpaste. Okay,
Mm.
there are just certain flavors that people gravitate towards.
Parang you're getting a toothbrush and oh, I'm getting a massage
Kasi,
because it smells like the spa. Because there's toothpaste smell and there's spa smell.
okay, then of the spices that Aina shared, which one do you think is a spa spice?
Peppermint,
Okay,
right?
safe enough.
That's very spa.
Very diffuser.
Mm-mm.
And then it has the stinky but necessary spice. That fascinates me though about stinky things. I mean, like there are, especially with Chinese cooking, there's a lot of like notoriously stinky foods, but then they taste great.
Mm-mm.
But then how does that work out? Because, um, you know, flavor is so interconnected with smell.
Yeah, and I used to find that weird, but I can't imagine why something would stink and yet you still enjoy eating it. But then that's when I started to realize that a lot of friends, well, not a lot of friends, but there were foreign friends who really could not understand how I could enjoy bagoong.
Cilantro. Oh, bagoong.
And
Okay.
I'm like, oh, okay, now it makes sense that, the stinkiness won't hit you as intensely as a stinky thing if you're enjoying the food. And I guess that's why some people really like durian, and I just can't wrap my head around it. Or jackfruit, even.
So Noel loves peppermint aromatherapy. Yeah, I mix peppermint with lavender as a pseudo breathing mix. Okay. Then Aina says you need aromatics. Stank is flavor. It creates contrast. Which just makes sense. I mean, like
Mm,
a lot of stinky things, you don't necessarily eat them on their own,
mm,
but then when paired with things, then
mm.
they make more sense.
That makes sense.
Like
Doesn't
Toby's
explain
food
durian though,
humming
because people eat durian alone, right? You
because it's a
don't you,
fruit.
you don't add anything to it, but it still has
A
a very
smell.
strong smell that I cannot get past.
I cannot condemn durian eaters because we like cilantro. And then there are people who can't stand cilantro. So then, like, okay, there's room enough for all of us to live in the same world. And yes, I know the cilantro is like an herb.
And it's, I don't know, it's a biological. It tastes
Yeah,
like, for some people it tastes like soap.
yeah. So it's like, what can you do? I can't think of there's a spice that I really want to get into because I'm probably gonna end up citing an herb because it's like there's
Mm.
so many things that like uh when you do things like rosemary and and thyme and like okay they're herbs then it's not the right ones.
So
Okay,
while
go.
we've determined that salt is not a spice,
Okay.
I don't get the Maarte salts.
Oh, like the Himalayan sea
Himalayan,
salt
Ganyan
things
salt,
and
and I know maybe it's, to try to look at the perspective. Maybe it's like rock salt and iodized salt. Na if you really try them, you'll notice how they're different, even if they're both just salt. But I don't know. I get weirded out. Maybe it's because of all the salt crystal lamps and things. So I kind of get turned off at the thought of
because
Maarte
it
salts.
ionizes and produces
Or it
ions.
cleanses your system, or it balances your whatever. And
But then there was like that. What was that salt that your brother-in-law shared? Na the steak salt.
it wasn't bad, but I didn't
It
I
was
didn't
distinct.
I didn't note it as something I needed.
That is true too. Like it's not while it did taste different from average table salt. I didn't feel the need to go out of my way to get this salt
Yeah.
instead of table salt.
Parang it was just salt with something. So parang dun ako na ano. But yeah. So
Aina, in defense of durian, says it depends on the durian. There are different kinds. The rich yellow one is the best one. Best eaten frozen if you're a beginner.
because
I
when
like
it's
that eating durian is a skill that must be learned, and you can be a
so but
beginner
it's so I
or
guess
a
it's like
pro.
alcohol.
Yeah,
It's really an acquired taste. It's really something you'll get used to. And once you're used to it, the flavor is not as um
overwhelming.
yeah, because you then enjoy
And
the,
then
how do I
like
say it? The flavor is not the same as the taste. And is that the right word to say it?
then it's
Because
funny
like
how
beer, no,
so
beer is still bitter, but when you're used to drinking beer, you don't really see it as bitter anymore.
yeah. Then I wanted to decide like in the alcohol comparison, why do so many alcohol journeys start with beer when it's not like a fun taste? Beer is not
Probably the price.
super yummy. I guess the price and the alcohol content
Hey,
ratio.
Aina, defend salt. Oh my god, there are different salts that give different flavors. The individual crystal structures, mineral sources. For example, the black or volcanic salt has a sulfur flavor. So if you can't have eggs, you can use it because it actually
Tastes
tastes
like
like eggs. Oh, that's an interesting concept. It can allow you to circumvent certain things because the taste then is added to some extent.
Aina should have
Mm.
guessed it.
Yes,
Probably.
probably.
Well, every food episode, I feel like Aina should have guessed it
Mm-mm.
because she
Yeah.
obviously has way more knowledge than we do. We just eat.
Mm-mm. But at the same time, if Aina guested on our show, we might cause her to fall off the bed or the chair because we
We
end
will
up,
say something stupid and she'll laugh and she may injure
because
herself.
we're like that when we used to hang out at her
Yeah.
place, and I'd have all my questions. Remember, Aina, what came first, the color or the fruit? Orange, and stuff like that. Or ayun, the cooking thing, was it named that because that's how it's cooked, or did they name it that and then they decided to cook it that way?
Yeah, Toby, when you leave him alone enough eating good food, then his brain goes to weird places and he'll start like, I wonder why blank. And then when we started visiting Aina and gaming with her, that was always what happened. And Aina, of course, served very, very delicious food, which resulted in very, very strange Toby questions.
Mm-mm.
And I must call them Toby questions because that's what they are.
Yeah, like I'm hoping for someday someone to explain to me why something called eggplant, which was roughly named that because when it's still newly grown, it looks like eggs, and then they extended to those shapes, became talong in our country.
I don't have an answer for you. Don't look at me.
But then when you look at a lot of Asian markets, the eggplant tends to be the stubbier, rounder ones, and not even the long ones. So parang when did that shift happen as far as our food history is concerned? Or did we
That's
have the small ones before? But then when the colonizers came in, they replaced it with the longer ones, and
let's
then the people
blame
started going, "Ay,
colonialism.
talong." It's not the short ones anymore. I don't know.
Explain to me this reaction of ay talong.
Ah, Aina says it's the Malay word Talong. Let's see that. You're right. Oh my gosh. That is awesome.
Yes, Toby is now looking at definitions for talong and etymologies.
Okay. That's cool. That's cool. So it has nothing to do with the English word long.
Wait, is that why you're reacting to talong?
Yes.
Because, okay, terms for things as fundamental as this are not based on puns, especially cross language puns into English.
Mm. Wow. Okay, just looking at the different words for it from other countries, it like goes everywhere. Atzil, Ringna, Vangi. Yeah. Okay. So let's go back to spices.
What else?
What's the most expensive spice we've had so far?
Someone gave us saffron and we didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah, that's right.
That was a
I think
waste.
we tried to mix it in rice or something.
Yeah, yeah,
And
I
we
don't
didn't know,
know.
but is this right? Is this working? I don't know. Then we had the beans. We had the vanilla beans.
That also stayed in the fridge and died a weird death because we
No,
didn't.
no, we used it.
Yeah, we infused it with something, but it took a while. It lived
Yeah.
in the fridge for a long time, so it was probably less than ideal by the time we used it. Um, yeah, and then I don't think anyone's given us truffly stuff. Although I know someone, or did we have truffle oil for a
I
while?
think we had
We
truffle
had
oil.
truffle oil, and I think all we did was add it to fries. It's like
Yeah.
we just refried fries with truffle oil.
Aina mentions miss feeding you guys. We miss the food
We
too.
miss eating your food.
Yes, the desserts were fantastic, and the ito na naman ako.
Okay, Aina, of course, like you can use saffrons in fish stews, like kakavia. Aina, what is kakavia? I've never made this. I've never made a fish stew. So your experiences are not universal, Aina. To go back to the Kimmy Schmidt quote, which I have mentioned to you before because you have you have this wealth of culinary knowledge which seems automatic to you in the same way when I talk about Transformers or something, which is hey, that's how it is. But
Aina, I have a question that maybe you can answer.
oh no.
Is there a reason spices are not so present in our Filipino desserts? Because normally you have desserts, there's like the spiced candy, the spiced ganyan, ganyan, ganyan. But then on
Okay.
ours, diba, you have the rice-based desserts, the mga kakanin, the sapin-sapin, the ganyan, ganyan, ganyan. But you don't really see them. It's not gingered sapin-sapin, or it's not.
Okay.
So I'm wondering, parang, why is that? Was our dessert palette something that went against the part of our culture that celebrated spices?
Do we
Was
just
it more
blame
Spanish?
colonialism
Yeah, was it
again?
more a Spanish ano that was trying to overcome the Muslim presence? Or
So Noel says maybe because we're more sweet than savory. But
no, but
um
there are sweet and spicy stuff, diba?
mm-mm. That's an interesting question. I mean, I don't think we'll figure out an answer like
Mm.
right now. But if people have ideas, sure, let us know in the comments. Why is spice use for us primarily limited to savory stuff,
Mm.
to meals and not desserts? Oh, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. Um, Aina says we do actually down south. We have regional spices everywhere. Achiote is a spice and a colorant. We use achuete for desserts. Really? What dessert uses achuete? I'm unfamiliar. Because I think when I only think of achuete, I only think of the spaghetti at the corner store, which is like,
Mm.
yes, it's red. Thank you. Um, and then Noel says, since our meals are savory, we need desserts to be sweet to cleanse it. I know pandan is a spice, aka screw pine, but I guess not the pandan leaves. Is it another part of pandan?
Mm-mm.
Because like is so because isn't the use of the leaf then making it an herb? Because if we're just going dictionary definition, I'm fascinated by this. Okay, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we're waiting with bated breath for like Aina to type. As
Mm-mm.
always, like, sorry, Aina, you gotta keep up with the show. Like, you're our main point of food content when we're doing these food episodes. Toby has that look on his face of wanting to look something up. I am worried what he's going to look up.
Banana is not counted in the list of herbs and spices. I was wondering on the banana leaf or something, the
Oh,
bark, diba, that's
okay.
been used in the Philippines for different things.
Noel is also learning so much from Aina. It's fascinating this way. The combination of Toby questions and Aina um, result in interesting things. Atsuete to color and flavor kuchinta. Oh, really?
Oh,
Oh,
I did not think of that.
fascinating. Fascinating. So I okay, that is a question. Like I don't know how different kakanins get their colors.
Hmm,
Why is kuchinta brown? So I guess this helps answer that question.
that's
Why is
interesting.
sapin all its different colors? Why do they mostly taste the same?
And
No.
then I guess my last question is, Aina, is there any food that uses sampaguita? As given it's such a prominent flower, or was it just toxic or something, so we can't really add it in our food? Because you do have a lot of floral or fragrant teas. You have flowers that are used to, spice up other things like, pastries or cakes.
I'm trying to look if there's like ooh. I guess I should search
Yeah, I
recipe.
don't remember seeing any, if ever. But then again, isn't sampaguita a jasmine or something?
Oops. Well, someone made some pagita cookies, but they're really coconut cookies. I guess they're just copying
They're just
something.
white.
I I thought it'd be an article. It's a Pinterest thing. Sampaguita sugar fritters with mango ice cream. Wow, that's a
So
very
sampaguita
specific
is
dessert.
Arabian jasmine. So one can say it's jasmine tea and the likes. That's a jasmine.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. If I search sampaguita tea, will I get a tea? Oh, there is sampaguita tea, but it goes back to jasmine.
Yeah, kasi it's the Jasminum Sambak or Arabian jasmine. That's what we call sampaguita.
Oh. Okay. Okay. Okay.
You would have thought that this would have been a more prominent thing in our, like when we welcome guests to the country, we'd have.
What is the point of having national symbols in so many categories and like
Yeah,
not rub people's faces in it more?
because what do we offer? We offer coconut juice
Mango juice.
or we offer mango juice, which is normally Gina. Diba? I mean, it's not. I love Gina.
Good job, mango extract concentrate. Blah blah blah. Fah!
But diba, parang it makes you wonder parang why there isn't more exploration in that area.
Because we have too many, so we don't know how to focus. Because because you can argue by offering mango juice, it's okay. It's our national fruit
So what if we have a like super national one
menu.
thing? So you have adobong jasmine
No, it has to be
sampaguita
an adobong kalabaw.
in pandan leaves with,
It's a kalabaw served with sambaquita jasmine tea and
and we call it the halo halo because it's really a mix.
sampaguita lace. That's true. That still happens.
Yeah.
But it's like you tend to see bigger flower lace also used alongside sampaguita. Because admittedly, sampaguitas are not visually impressive because they're small as a lay. And we're wandering away from spices. But hey, thanks flowers.
And I guess the weird thing about sampaguita lace, it starts to feel religious.
Oh yeah, there is
There
that.
is that
There is that
religious
weird
aspect to it.
association of a sampaguita lay feeling like a religious thing because I mean half the time you're gonna see a sampaguita lay on a statue, on a religious statue.
Mm.
That's an interesting point. Okay, and Ina says we will make that national menu.
Mm.
What are the weird parts of the national? What's the Philippine national symbols? Okay, it's like it could be an episode of its own. Um. Oh, why is this on Google Arts and Culture? Okay, this is like totally messed up. Ah, there's a Wikipedia page. Okay. So
It's gonna be a long list.
our menu is going to have to include, well, let's not include the seals. Oh my god, national bird.
Okay, so bird is eagle.
I don't think we can eat the national
Yeah,
bird because it's
flower
a
is
endangered thing.
sampaguita. The
Oh,
national gem is the pearl. Um, there's okay. Let's skip the others. The national tree is
so
nara,
we have to eat near a Nara tree
or
or
it's served
somehow
on a
incorporate Nara leaves. I
yeah,
don't
or
know.
served on nara leaves or something like
Wow,
that.
and these are the only official symbols at the moment. Then we have so many others, but they're just like understood. But there's no enabling law.
So the ones that are proposed but not yet final are adobo as national food, anahaw as national leaf, bakya as national
So
slippers,
stupid.
bangus as national
Okay, I thought
fish.
bangus was already national fish.
We have carabao as national animal. We have
Jeepney has national
mango
vehicle.
as national fruit.
Okay, Malacanang Palace as national seat of government. That's a little redundant
Okay.
because it is the seat of government ish. It's the presidential residence. So okay, but the ones that are
Oh,
enabled. Oh, what?
there was waling waling as a national flower that was passed by
But
Congress,
it was vetoed.
but then vetoed.
Yeah, so the official symbols are limited. So maybe our national menu is not that difficult to make apparently because there are only a few
So
things.
you have carabao milk
Wait,
that has the Arabian jasmine touch, served with a plate of adobo, mango slices in the shape of an eagle.
but you have to eat it in a nipa hut. You travel to that hut on a jeepney and or okay, it's not there. You must be wearing baratsaya while you eat this. Barong and baratsaya, sorry.
And a touch of bangus.
Oh, but with bakya. Ah,
Okay.
it's so terrible.
So going back to spice, because that is the topic of our episode. To close, so we talked about the spices we were hoping to try, the spices we're hoping to explore. Um, what else can we close when as far as spices are concerned?
Aina is excited for this menu. We'll handle the bird. No, I'm kidding. um, I don't know. I mean, like, okay. I think what I will say is that spices, especially when you're starting out in cooking, are scary.
Mm.
I understand the fear. It's like I don't know where to begin. And then I guess so my spice journey has started with safely with pepper, with the non-spice that is salt.
Mm-hmm.
And then I feel like herbs are like an easier entry point than spices
Mm-hmm.
because the flavors are milder and like you can't it's not it's harder to put too much of an herb than to put too much of a spice.
Mm.
Like the flavors of spices tend to be more potent. And then if you want to do what I do, then I whether looking at recipes or I like looking at spice mixes.
Mm-hmm.
And like I might like Italian seasoning was my go-to when I first started making pastas. And then I would look into what's in Italian seasoning and then like, oh, maybe there are certain flavors I like more than others. And that helped me experiment.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like my thing. Like if you're starting out and you don't know what spices to use outside of recipes, try flavor mixes. And then if you like them, examine what's in the flavor mix. Because it will list what's inside. And then you can kind of figure out, you know, maybe I'll get one packet of this and try it on its own
Mm-hmm.
and then see if you like it. I mean, ultimately, like with most things related to food, it is a taste journey. So if you want to really experiment and explore spices, you have to taste them.
And it's a taste and smell journey.
True, true. Although don't deeply inhale pepper. That's just painful.
Yeah, and I think as many of us have learned when it comes to Hershey chocolate powder, cocoa powder, just because it doesn't taste good on its own doesn't necessarily mean it's bad for the dish.
What a specific example that is not a spice. Because you have eaten a spoonful of Hershey's, is that it?
I've said my piece.
Ina's like salt and pepper is basic. The rule is 1 tablespoon of salt and 1/4 to half a teaspoon of pepper per kilo of meat, and that's rock or kosher salt. But that helps. like your base flavoring, and then beyond that, then you can get to experiment and have fun. I mean, like I know I probably use I that's my main that's my other thing though. Like I'm always wary of serving food to other people other than Toby,
Mm.
because at least Toby, he has no choice, he'll eat my food. But
Yeah, and we're also used to a
yeah, and there's
stronger.
a certain flavor profile that we've become accustomed
Yeah.
to. And then when it comes to like guests, like oh no, should I tone it down because it might be too much, or do I just commit to it? And then I would never have the guts to serve Aina anything because it scares
Mm,
me to give her food.
that's true. Because you know she's gonna eat it anyway, but then judge you without saying it.
It's okay, I'll judge you back. I don't know. And Aina tries to help that Hershey's cocoa is for baking, but Dutch cocoa is better.
But they all go to your tummy.
That doesn't work in this case. Eat your Ovaltine, which is not a spice. Okay. Yeah, I think that's about it for us for this rainy episode. I don't wanna push too long because ironically, despite the rain, we didn't have an interruption,
Mm-mm.
which is weird.
We had a brief interruption earlier.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. Oh, that's true. We had one earlier on.
So tomorrow we won't be having an episode, but Thursday is the road to Dune.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the Dune movie again and like what's been happening
The
so
recent
far.
trailer came out, and we have a lot of things to say about that trailer. There's a lot of other things that have been coming out, but we've been avoiding those. We've been sticking to just the trailers. Then Friday, since we're still doing Dune inspired episodes,
Thunder.
we're talking about fear, phobias, and dealing with all that.
All right.
So thank you so much for joining us for this episode. We had a lot of fun, and I totally realized I forgot to use the timer. But we hope you'll join us again next time.
Did that help? You don't think it's a duck? Okay, so for questions or suggestions for future episodes, fill out the Google form at bit.ly Baduy Pride Ideas. You can follow us on Twitter, Altobi No Shade, RG Suniko.
You could also check out our blog, badaypray.com, for all the previous episodes and stuff about us.
Feel free to continue the conversation in the comments below. Let us know what your favorite spices are. And I guess I'm also curious to like, what is your most unusual spice use?
Mm.
Like certain spices that you put in a dessert or things like that. Let us know about these combinations. I'd be fascinated to hear from you. And be sure to subscribe for notifications, whether on Facebook or YouTube, so you don't miss our next live stream. Once again, I'm Rocky.
And I'm Toby.
And this is Baduy Pride. Good night, everyone. We love you.